There have been times in my life I've been wondering why. Still somehow I believe we'd always survive. Now I'm not so sure you waited here. Just what good reason to try. Oh, what more can I say? But what's left to provide? Don't you think, maybe it's over? I don't want to be. I wanna wait for a sign, a miracle. Well, stand up and vibe, sing it out tonight. Yeah, ain't gonna stay where you are. Your back's to the corner. This is it. Don't play your fool anymore. The waiting is over. Nowhere around. Nowhere to have time for wondering. You see, the moment is now about to decide. Love believe, leaving behind, but keep me near your heart. And know, whatever I do, I'll be there by your side. You said, baby, it's over. Only if you want it to be. Oh, it's love is our miracle. Stand up and fight. This is it. Ain't no mistake where you are. You go, this is it. What you look so good. No one can tell you for you know. Who makes the choice from wrong and go? It's not up to me this time. There was a day in your life. It's good. Make no mistake when you are. Run to the no one can tell when the future goes. Nobody can tell. Nobody knows. You make no choice. The doors in your life. No one can tell what the future holds. What you owe. Long and see what the future holds. You make no choice. Kenny Loggins, everybody. Kenny Loggins. We love you, buddy. The great Kenny Loggins, everybody.
In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the most merciful, the truthful, and the most just. I greet all of you once again who hunger and thirst for the true understanding of the instruction in righteousness that we call Holy Scriptures. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's Salam Alaikum. It's so many things just happening one after another that it's Allah is manifesting uh, everything now. You know, Allah is the truth. And people don't realize that, it's like the messenger said this about our universe, the way it's designed. He said, and scientists have borne witness to it, but Allah let them have a peek into it. The very space that we look like it's nothing, it's kind of like when you're standing outside and you look at the houses and the trees, and sometimes you will get ready to cross the street, and you'll look to the left and look to the right, and somebody say, "Do you see anything?" I said, "Nope." Well, then you, little child, if you struck them across the street, do you see anything? They said, "No, it's nothing." So, okay, go ahead. But there's plenty out there. Air is out there. You just don't see it. That's the way space is. It looks like nothing is there. But as the messenger said, the very space itself that appears to be nothing, there's force there in that space that brings planets and stars that are hidden out there. The force of space is in motion, bringing that thing that was hidden out there into our view. As the messenger said that, and I heard the scientists talk about the space is full of what they call black holes, and matter goes in and nothing comes out. As I said, the universe didn't start off empty. It was dense. That's why we say, scientists know this. That's why when somebody is kind of dumb, they say, "Man, homeboy kind of dense. Boy, you dense." Huh? What that mean? When you have, for instance, they talk about some stars that, this is what they told me in junior high school. Mr. Jesse, I remember he was a Caucasian, and Mr. Jesse said there are some stars that are so dense that 1 cubic inch of it weighs tons. The material, if you take a cubic inch of it out, it would weigh tons. So dense means a whole lot of things, a whole lot compressed into a relatively small area. Well, as we learn, It's just like, you know, and you can't, when something is real dense, the denser it is, the harder it is. Excuse me. The denser it is, the harder it is to get something else in there. Hence, we use the term dense when you're talking to someone that you can't hardly tell or teach anything. You understand? So as we learn, as knowledge is put in us, then it's like, you know, the more you put in us, the more our mind, the density expands and allows more. It actually, the more you put in it, the more space is created to put more in it. You understand? Well, so just as the universe, who is that with their phone off mute? The meeting's not on YouTube. Yes, it's on there. You need to reboot your, what you call it, because it's the brother is in there and his is on there. Yes, sir. So the more you learn, the more your mind expands to receive more. You understand? So likewise, we have learned that the universe is just an ever more expanding. It is expanding. Well, in order to, you don't have to wonder what we were put here for. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad asked and answered the question, who is the original man? He didn't ask who was the original man. He asked who is the original man. And the answer was the original man is, not was. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. When the human family only had a natural mind, a mind that could comprehend natural things, we were unfit to govern this universe. In other words, our thinking was too small. You see? So we needed, we had gotten to the point after trillions of years that the scientists that were ruling, we say gods, but that kind of confuses people. Because most people, when you talk about God, because we let the devil rule for a while, people have been misled about the understanding of the meaning of the word God. For God actually means the possessor of power and force. This world have taught a nonsensical understanding of God that have people not knowing what they are talking about when they use the term God. They know nothing comes into their mind. They get confounded when you start asking them, well, who is God? And they'll tell you all kinds of, well, is that Jesus is God? Well, who is Jesus? You mean you killed God? You say y'all killed him. So what are you talking about? Then they get mad at you, which is one of the things. See, it is the false concept, the false idea. That's what a concept is. It's an idea. The false concept or idea of God is what created the idea of being an atheist. You see, as I said, the atheist, when he says, I don't believe in God, well, that is because what he's really saying is he don't believe in that which you describe to him as God. And you know, like the messenger said that he said what the scripture says. The fool have said in his heart, meaning the fool have said in his mind, in the heart. The mind is the heart of the man. It is the heart of who you are. And so the fool have said in his heart, there is no God. And as the messenger said, any black man or woman that is educated by white people is justified to be nothing but a fool. Meaning it's justified to be saying in himself that there is no God. Do you understand? So not just, now, as he said, you could say that any black man or white man, but no, because some white men know that they are, you know, the rulers, they know they have misled us about God. It's like you would never have had a Roman Catholic religion, and because that goes way back to the time of Jesus even. If you recall, when the Jews was plotting to kill Jesus, plotting on what they was going to do about Jesus, Caiaphas, which was the high priest, like you call the Pope now, and all these people, but you know, he was the high priest, or he was the leader, a Jewish leader, and he told them, he said, at least when the priests and them was sitting around talking, they said, what do we? If we leave this man alone, all men are going to believe on him. And then the Romans are going to come and take away our place and the nation. Well, I said the Romans are going to come and take away their place. How did that happen? That's why the Holy Quran, it tells us, it says, oh, you who believe, take not the Jews and Christians for friends, meaning don't follow them. Don't do what they teach, because if you do, it says, for they are friends of each other. They are followers of each other. And whosoever among you takes them for friends, surely you become one of them. You are one of them. Huh? You are one whose mind is not of the word of God. You are of the word of the Jews and the Christians. Just like any rabbi will tell you, if you corner him, you ask him, where did Judaism come from? God didn't send no religion called Judaism. He'll say, that's right. If you ask a knowledgeable Christian, you say, God didn't call no religion Christianity. He'll say, that's right. It came from them. And when you practice it, you are actually indirectly worshiping the Jews or the Christians. Do you understand? That's why the Pope, he is called the father of the church. The father of the Christian church. But why? Because the religion that he espouses didn't come from God. It came from white people. It came from them. He's the father of that. And that's what he gets you to call him father. And then Jesus said, you are of your father, the devil. See? And the desires of your father you will do. How do you take men and have them lusting after other men? How do you manage to do that without them realizing that's what you're doing? You create a religion that forbids a man to marry. You teach him that to marry is you can't do that and be a priest. We are married to the Lord. Next thing you know, when his nature come down on him, what happens? Yeah. But anyway, now let's get back to this to the universe. When I heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say that the space itself is moving, he said there's force in the universe bringing unmovable things to our view, moving immovable objects, unmovable objects. It's bringing them into our view. Kind of like the force in the universe that's doing this. It's kind of like your bloodstream that's bringing all things that's constantly coursing through you, and it is delivering all types of things throughout the body. You know, it's a system, a circulatory system, and we call the one that we are living in the solar system. But anyway, and then you have in the solar system you have galaxies. You have a galaxy that is the solar system is a part of, and so everything is moving, revolving, and we call it in a circle, a ever widening and moving circle, circles within circles. And so when I heard the messenger talk about the universe that looks like nothing, then I heard scientists talking about the black holes, that matter goes in there, and then it just seemingly it don't get out. Well, that told me that and especially since there are black holes all throughout space, according to them, like pores in our skin, and the gravity in there is so strong that if you can compress something into if you get a look at when you go to the junkyard, you have you've seen it on TV if you haven't went, but they have a crusher that can take that used to take them big, even when cars were made out of nothing but iron and steel, they could take that great big old car. After they get the engine and the parts off of it that they want, they leave the hull there, or the shell there, and that compactor can compress it into a little square that maybe was a yard by a yard, 3 feet by 3 feet. That whole big old car compressed down to that. So the universe itself, those what they call black holes, since the universe was so cluttered with matter, now this is just my thoughts on this. The God decided, since you can't turn matter, you can't. There's no such thing as destroying matter. You cannot. But since matter, the foundation of matter is the atom, and the atom is energy, then you put if you can get something that's strong enough, you can force matter so tightly together that it will transform it to energy or to force. And that's what those black holes do. That's my thoughts on that. And so, and that agrees with the scientists, and that agrees with the messenger, where it says that even the space that looks like nothing is moving. You know what happens when you squeeze a lemon, what's inside of it squirts out. Is that right? There you go. So those are just my private thoughts on it. I thought I'd share a few of them with you. But anyway, now let's get back to this. I remember the messenger told me, he said, in the hereafter, he said, there won't be any end to your wisdom. And well, that was just his way of telling me, because that's the only way that I could be I could wear that kind of title, the God of the universe, is that the same way the universe has no limit, the mind that governs the universe must be unlimited also. And as for trillions of years, our rulers, they have been trying to figure out how to master that problem, to come up with a way to expand our mind, to understand, to make ourselves unlimited in our understanding. And as Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. That which has been will be, and that which will be has already been. They reached a point where they couldn't come up with nothing new. And that's where Yaqub came in. You see, as the messenger said, Yaqub was born in a vacuum in our history, in a time where there was no one could come up with something new. And so Yaqub, he came up with something that nobody had ever thought of. He said, I'm going to place a ruler in the earth. And they asked him, well, you going to place in it such as make mischief in it and shed blood? Well, what are you doing that for? See, they didn't know. So he came up with something that they didn't understand. And so he said, that's all right. He said, I know what you know not. Surely I know what you know not. I understand something that you don't understand. And so he was given dominion, because couldn't nobody stop him, because he knew things that they didn't know. He understood things that they didn't understand. And you know what they say about curiosity. You remember, it says, as in Adam, all what? Died. What killed us? Curiosity. Yeah. Curiosity killed the cat. And now we got satisfaction of our curiosity, and that's resurrecting us, bringing us back. Do you understand? So they say curiosity killed the cat and satisfaction brought him back. Is that right? So, all these little funny sayings that we had, a lot of us didn't realize that was sleep talk. You know how people talk in their sleep? And they say things that make sense. They just don't know that they saying things that make sense because they are asleep. Do you understand? All right. Yes. Wa alaikum as-salam.
Did you just explain, because I often wonder, and the thought just came into my mind recently and all of the time, but did you just explain how the earth is just moving so fast? I often wonder, how do we just stand still, or how we can't see it moving? It's moving so fast. So you just explain.
Well, the thing is, us being inside of the atmosphere and on the earth is like a fly in your car. Now, you can be doing 120 miles an hour, and that fly can fly from your windshield back to the back of your car, just flying like that. Because you see, it's not just the car moving that fast, but the atmosphere inside the car is moving that fast. The fly is already moving that fast with you. So when the fly takes off, then he's already going 120 miles an hour, and he takes off, and he actually, by being self-propelling, he's going even faster now. If you understand what I'm saying. But you better not open up that window, because the air outside of you is not moving that fast. You are moving through it that fast. So now I didn't start that to create a bunch of other things. Naturally, when we have limited knowledge, I have not studied this long enough to go so much deeper into it. But eventually, when we have time, we will study, and we will find out together, all of us as a family, the human family. We will study our universe, and we will figure out everything. As scientists, they flirt with the idea of folding space. That's their way of letting you know that space that looks like nothing is actually something. And if it is something, then you can learn to manipulate it if your knowledge will allow you to. Same way we had to learn how to fly. And as we learned how to fly, then we got more sophisticated at it as a species. And then we learned that if you go fast enough, don't make no difference how big the plane is. If you go fast enough, and the force of the air rushing against the fuselage and the wings of a plane, if you design it properly, but let's face it, even a bus can take off the ground if you go fast enough, and the wind hitting it enough, the force of the air rushing against the bus will make it leave the ground, because it becomes lighter than the gravity is a constant. The force of the air being it is fluctuating because of your speed. And so the force that you moving through the air becomes greater than the force of gravity, which is constant pulling on you. Then once that the air gets greater than the gravity pull, then you got to leave the ground, and you're gonna leave the ground. That's a law. That's the law of a physical law, and so we learned these things, and so one day we're gonna learn how to move through the universe like we move from one state to another. We're gonna learn to do these other things too. And that's why we needed to expand our mind, because we were always curious about our universe. We always were. Just like you looked at Roots, when Alex Haley, when the baby was born, they held the baby up and said, "Behold, the only thing greater than yourself." And well, we can't have that. So now we got a mind that we can equal that. And so when we're going to go out and master that. I didn't say conquer that. I said master that. You see? So this is what we are gearing up for. So now we're going to perfect ourselves. It's once you got one perfect mind, one completed mind, then it's just a matter of reproduction. You see, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm reproducing. You see, and by you expanding your mind, you're going to be less petty. You're going to be you'll know how to be at peace with each other. And this is what's coming. We're not going to study war no more. And you're very welcome. So we have a lot to share with you. I want all of you to. It's just like when you leave the Earth and go out in space, you're already traveling at the speed that the Earth is traveling, which is about 18 miles per second, a little over 18 miles per second, as it rushes around the sun. So you're already traveling at that when you leave from out here, leave here. And then when you add some more, since there is no friction out there that is, it is negligible. Then when you do your thing about putting your, as you say, hit the gas, hit your afterburners, then you go even faster. But when they say he's traveling 22,000 miles per hour, what he's saying is he's traveling 22,000 plus what the Earth was traveling. Do you understand? So it's relative to the Earth. Do you understand? So, because you're actually traveling faster than that. But in relationship to the Earth, you are speeding away with that propulsion system you have. But anyway, let's get back to something that I don't like just sitting up and spitballing, but I would love to talk with. That's why I enjoyed talking with Dr. Tyson. He's that physicist. He's a very knowledgeable brother, and I would love to sit down with him sometime and just hear his ideas of how things work. And I'm pretty sure that I would be able to help him understand things even better, because that's the way my mind works. You bring me something that you know how to make, I can show you the best way to use it to get the best benefit out of it. But that's what I do. So I'm looking forward to us all working together. Now, there's something that I wanted to show you. Now, this is very important. I was, I had wanted to catch it from the beginning, and I forgot about it. And I caught the best part. I caught the part that I needed to see, because thanks to one of the brothers, he called me and reminded me that they was doing a documentary on the special investigator, special counsel, Robert Mueller. And so I immediately turned to it, and it was right at the part that I was, I just thanked Allah that I was able to get to it, because, it, I think that nobility, as I've told you many times, life is like a supermarket, a great big supermarket. And as you live and interact with people, As Allah said that we made you tribes that you may know one another. You know, to know is to understand, that you may understand from one another, interacting with each other, then you understand, and you know, you can go visit people, and things that you admire that people display of character, then you know what a role model is? They use that term, role model. Well, each one of us, as one of the poets said, that the whole world is a stage and everyone is playing a part. Well, in the movie, the movie industry, they call it, you know, a role. Everyone has a role to play. Do you understand? Okay, but life is such that, you know, we are finding out that things are not as complicated as we would like to believe, and that, you know, we are not as haphazard as we think we are. You know, it's just like when you plant a seed, that thing that you planted finds in the soil after it opens up, after that seed bursts or explodes. It finds material that is like its essence, and it's attracted to that material, and it begins to feed or unite with that material. Just like when you eat, your body is actually uniting with the, you know, the nutrients that's in that's like what's in you. It's uniting with other nutrients, you know, with those nutrients, and becoming bigger. And so likewise, things like that happens in the earth. That's why some ground is unfertile for certain things to grow, because the necessary nutrients that seed requires are not found in that particular earth. And so it don't do well, you know, while something else will do well. But anyway, so each of us, you know, as we, you know, like things that attract my attention may not attract your attention. As they say, one man's treasure is another man's trash. Do you understand? That's all through life. You know, one plant's treasure is another plant's trash. I can't use that, but this one can use it. Okay, so, you know, as I look at people, just like the story of the ugly duckling. While the little ugly duckling was a swan all of the time and didn't know it, the other little ducks, they wasn't envious, or they didn't admire the swans, but the little squab that thought he was a duck and wasn't, he used to watch those beautiful, he thought those swans were beautiful, and he admired them. And so, you know, it's like I never did really understand why it stuck with me about, you know, people like Nathan Hale and people who were noble and patriotic. But I always admired patriotic people, people who stood for something. It's like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. How could I not admire him? I mean, I admired Jesus. I admired all of those men. I couldn't understand how people could have rejected those men and what they stood for. And I used to wish I could be right there, could have been there with them. And so so that's what taught me the lesson about life being like a supermarket, or the living amongst humanity. For we all come here empty. We come here like a basket. When you go to the market, you grab your basket and then you start putting something in it. We grab a baby and we start putting stuff in the baby. But sooner or later, no matter what you put in the baby, the baby becomes his own master at some point. And if he decides that what you put in him ain't no good, he can dump it out and decide he gonna put something else in there. That's what Allah said, that every soul, there's not a soul, but over it is a keeper. If we came here and we couldn't be our own keeper, then whatever happened to us would always be somebody else's fault. But Allah gave each of us a reasonable mind. For the most part, everybody comes here with an innate ability to reason. If you don't believe it, you watch children how they get to reasoning. I remember when we was little, we reasoned, and that's just another way of saying we think. That's why mothers, a lot of times they not conscious that they will blame themselves because the baby hurt itself or hurt herself, and yes, it's partially mother's fault, but not really, because when babies they learn early that things that they want to do, you stop them. They'll go to grab something, you grab them, you stop them. Now, and they'll start crying. And so they learn to look at you. If they want to grab something, they'll look at you first. They'll look at what they want to grab. They'll look at what they want to go after. And they'll wait on you to turn your back. Then they'll go get it. And that's how they wind up hurting themselves. And then you be jumping all over yourself and blaming yourself. But that's why you learn that the lesson is, since you can't watch them 24/7, you have to keep things that might hurt them out of their reach. Do you understand? And so that's what we learn to do as parents. But that you can't keep them. They have a keeper. It's their own brain, their own mind that is developing. But they come here with that. You see, there's not a soul, but over it is a keeper. So that's why every individual is going to be judged on his own merit. That's why I speak to everyone, and the way that I speak to you, you needn't think that you are hearing something that other people ain't hearing. No, I speak in the language, the simplest terms, so that everybody who heard me is responsible for what I said. You're not deciphering what I say. What I say deciphers itself. It is understanding. It's not something you have to look for. This is milk I'm giving you. I'm reducing it to milk. If or you got a juicer, and it can turn whatever you have into juice. Right? Okay, well, that's what I do. I turn it all into its simplest form, liquid. And all you got to do is swallow it. And it will nourish you to strength. Now, I want to, I said all of that because as I said, as I studied Mr. Robert Mueller, I listened to what people said about him, which is what attracted my attention to him. But when he was first chosen as a special counsel or special prosecutor, or however you want to call it, both the Democrats and the Republicans were praising him. And I found out why later, because the man had been the director of the FBI for 10 years. And the only reason he wasn't still the director was because it's a limit now. They don't let you go past 10 years. You got to, 10 years is all, that's it. But he was asked when they couldn't find a qualified or, one that they were satisfied with. I don't say qualified. There's always qualified people. They just may be hard to find, but they are qualified people. And so the Obama administration, even though he was appointed originally by a Republican, and so was Dr. Comey. Director Comey. But he was a man of integrity. He was a veteran, a Marine. By the way, you know that the embassy duty all around the world is something that Marines do. You see, there's a reason for that. The Marines have always been a volunteer branch of service. It's not something that somebody forced on anybody. If you went into the Marines, it's because you volunteered to go in there. And so naturally the training in there is a lot more what you call not harsh, but demanding. And so, because in the first place, you can demand more from someone who volunteered. Do you understand? And so they demand more from you. And, okay, you volunteered. We'll see how serious you were. And so that, and it requires the mere fact that you volunteered is a sign that you have a degree of patriotism in your heart. So embassy duty, you will generally find, even when the president is coming down off of the plane or whatnot, it's Marines down there at the bottom of the steps that's saluting him and guarding him. But Anyway, Mr. Mueller, everybody, both sides, unanimously just about agreed that he would be the special counsel and he was a good pick. Don't care what they're saying now, because most of them is in a position where they can be blackmailed because they took the money, they signed the pledge, and you know what they say: you dance to the music, you got to pay to the piper. And so, and they don't want the things that they've been doing to come out, but the scripture already told you that there's nothing hidden that shall not be made manifest. This is the day where everything you've been doing is finna be found out, buddy. That goes for me, you, everybody, even the universe. Everything is about to be present itself because the Lord has come. So now, as I was looking at, I used to think about that man. You know how people love to live, and it just couldn't. It was unfathomable for me when I was in elementary school, when they taught us about Nathan Hale, that he got caught spying. I think it was Nathan Hale, and they were getting ready to kill him. And he said that when they asked him, did he have any last words or whatnot, he told them that his only regret was that he didn't have but one life to give for his country. And to me, that was just, that was profound. In my little mind at that time, I say, man, he wasn't scared. I know now, yes, he was. But fear was not his master. Perfect love casteth out fear. Perfect love is what a true father has for his family, for his country, for his God. You see, if you love God, you know the first thing he said he would remove from you? Fear. Because perfect love casteth out fear. You see? And so if you fall in love with flesh, then you fell in love with weakness. Flesh fades away. So that's an imperfect love. But if you fall in love with truth, truth is like gold. It don't decay. And it has abundance of benefit that you get. And in that way, it is not like gold. Gold is just a metal that is put there, that is there for you and I to extract a lesson out of, not to start worshiping it, because it don't give you life. It can't guide you out of darkness into light. All it can do is sit there and you look at it. So we don't worship gold. And so as I was thinking about, Nathan Hale, he was a person that I thought was worthy of. If I'm gonna emulate somebody, I would much rather emulate somebody like him. It's just like, when I was growing up. I mean, some brothers. I remember this one brother in particular. He was crazy about Iceberg Slim, a pimp. But I mean, he was Iceberg Slim. I mean, as I remember when I was looking at TV, I used to pretend to be Zorro. It just the things that I saw that I admired in people, I imagined that to try to be like that myself. We all do it. We may not be honest about it, but we all, that's human nature. If you admire something in someone else, you naturally try to incorporate some of that into your own character. Just like Brother Donald, I admired how laid back he was and how self-confident he was, and he never did seem like anything frightened him. And so, and yet he reminded me of my brother Sonny, but only Donald was cooler because Donald was a Muslim. And, Sonny sometimes did people wrong. I mean, he could fight, and sometimes he overdid it. As far as, he didn't have to always fight. He just seemed like he liked to fight. He wasn't no bully, but man, he'd get in a fight in a minute. If and you get like that, and people go around, people start fearing you, and then they want to hurt you. Brother Donald, you wouldn't think that he would do nothing to you. But you knew when you had got on his wrong side. And, and so I admired the way that he conducted himself, because that was the teachings, that you go in the way of peace and never be the aggressor upon any man. But if you are attacked, you fight with those that fight with you. And when they cease fighting with you, cease fighting with them. And so, I've been blessed to be attracted to people that I thought were noble. And so that's why I look at those men. I mean, when the FBI came out here that time, I couldn't get mad. I looked at them, and they were so, the elder one, he did most of the talking, and the younger ones, when he went to go back and forth with me, the elder one told him, he just motioned to him, and he shut up, and the elder one told me, he said, "Look, we know that you all are law abiding, and you believe in obeying the laws. We need to see this. We need to see Frederick Muhammad, and have him to contact our office." And so I told him, "Okay, yes, sir. Okay." And that was that. I'm not going to tell you what else, because I don't know if that's was part of their protocol, but so I'm not going to say what else they did to show respect, but they showed us respect. And this was in Mississippi here. This is while I'm in Mississippi. And so, those men of that that bureau. Now I know that you know, at some points in time, there may have been stumbles, but they never let themselves fall. And I respect that. Like the way they treated the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They basically treat me the same. I've been treated the same. I can't point a condemning finger at them in how they didn't have nothing to do with some of this crazy stuff, some of these local people did. But anyway, so as I was looking at, as I told you, you go through life, when you see something that you admire in someone else, you don't have to get jealous. You can always put that in your basket. You can put that piece of character that you admired. You can emulate that. It can become yours. You see? But you will discover that practicing it is not quite as easy as admiring it. Do you understand? Well, that's with anything. If you want to get good at it, you got to practice. Is that right? Okay. So I want you to see this little clip that it just it says something about, the character of the man.
Prioritize, make counterterrorism a number one priority, and make certain that we spend whatever resources were necessary to prevent the next terrorist attack, not just to determine who is responsible for September 11th.
He led that charge, and it was like turning the Titanic. So in order to do that, he imposed very rigorous discipline on all of us. So he'd come in extremely early, functioned on very little sleep, and expected us to do the same.
Good evening. The FBI makes more arrests today to hold people for further questioning.
But as the U.S. becomes embroiled in the war on terror, Mueller, a staunch supporter of the Constitution, is uncomfortable with the possible erosion of civil rights.
I knew and understand that we would be judged not only on how successful we were in preventing attacks, but how successful we were in doing that within the confines and constraints of the Constitution.
I brought the case to get due process, a right to hearing for the people at Guantanamo. I got a lot of flack for it. We had a Christmas dinner party right after the case in 2002. And in the middle of it, Bob Mueller stood up and gave me a toasted me, saying that I'm doing exactly what an American lawyer should be doing. That doesn't denigrate. He wanted to get the bad guys, but he recognized the importance of sticking to our principles and doing it so that we don't bring shame on our nation.
You remember what I told you? See, the truth is independent of anyone. If you walk by a mirror, you recognize your own reflection. But do you, a man who has integrity, a man who truly is a patriot, if he gets in a position where he represents his nation, he never wants to do anything that makes his nation have to feel ashamed that he's their representative. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the same thing, that I mean, like I said, when you see one father, you've seen all of them. When you know one patriot, all patriots are the same. It's like the eagle. You see one eagle, you know what to expect from eagles. Huh? Okay, Mr. Mueller, he said, we want to get them that we consider the bad guys. but we don't want to become them. You do not fight fire with fire. That statement is a statement that you have to qualify greatly before you start saying fight fire with fire. If you're going to say that, it should always be in the sense you fight fire with return fire. If you are fired upon, return fire. In other words, you may defend yourself. But the best way to fight fire is don't be the first to fire. Because someone who's really not looking for or itching for a war, if you don't fire first, if both of them saying, I'm not going to fire until he fire, well, then ain't going to be no fire, is it? There won't be no firing if both sides are saying, we are going to do this in defense. But when you just say fight fire with fire, no, people get the wrong understanding. You don't fight fire with fire. You fight fire with water. We learned in elementary school that fire needs three things. Take any of those three away and it dies. Fire needs oxygen, it needs fuel, and it needs heat. So you fight fire with that which is opposite that. Fire is hot, water is cool. Fight fire with water. Huh? Fight fire by depriving it of oxygen. If they could develop, now this is something, you know, the scientists, if you give them something that they ain't never thought of, sometimes that's all they need. It's the proper thought. For instance, what if there was a way that you could devise a bomb that would just suck all the oxygen out of a particular area? And if a fire was burning there, it would die because of its lack of oxygen. Of course, now I know then you with your wicked mind, you would those who love to shed blood and make mischief would use that same thing on human beings. And that's sad. But anyway, so Mr. Mueller, he has some integrity. He has a concern. He didn't just put his hand up and say he gonna uphold the Constitution. Upholding the Constitution don't mean only when you're dealing with Americans. It means you uphold the Constitution. How in the world are you going to get other people to adopt your Constitution or to respect your Constitution if they discover that you don't really respect it unless you're inside of your own country? When you leave your country, you leave all of your principles behind too. You don't pack them, you leave them behind. What kind of Muslim is only a Muslim when he go to the mosque? Or is only a Muslim when he's surrounded by Muslims? When I'm in Rome, no, I don't do as Romans do. I do what a Muslim is supposed to do. Don't make no difference where I'm at. And likewise, you know, Mr. Mueller is an American first, a dutiful, patriotic American that knows that America's values, the ideals of America are laid out in the Constitution. What America stands for and what Americans supposed to stand for. And so and you know, the ideals of a nation. I heard Minister Farrakhan say this, and he was correct. The ideals of a nation are carried in the man. Wherever you have fallen women, you know the man done fail first. Because the only reason you don't have decent women is because you ain't got no decent men around. So, you know, you can try to rewrite the roles of man and woman all you want, but you ain't nobody to be rewriting no roles for me. Allah already gave me my role. And he said, I will not have the woman usurp the authority over the man. So what a lot of you don't understand, you say, well, you supported Hillary Clinton over a man. No, I didn't. Because I understood what I was doing. When a person becomes president of the United States, it don't make no difference whether they're a man or a woman, because the Constitution is over them and everything that they do, if they have the integrity to obey it. You got a man in there now that does not respect the Constitution. He already told you that America's justice system is a joke. He stood up and told you that. Was saying all kind of things while he was running that never have you heard a presidential candidate attacking the FBI, even if they thought that there was something that the FBI should have been doing and wasn't. They knew that a public arena wasn't the place to do that. That's not a conversation you have in public. Because in the first place, you don't know really what they are doing, because they don't get out in the public and talk about what they're investigating and what they come up with and why and whatnot. That's if they're investigating somebody, they usually don't even say that they investigate. But when this man, Donald Trump, did something that was unexpected, trying to say that let me see here. See if I can find it. Let's go with this one. Just a moment. You all give me a minute.
It was confirmed today that she routinely sent classified emails on an insecure private server that could be easily hacked by hostile foreign agents. And we learned that people she emailed were hacked, and probably, I think maybe definitely, were hacked by these hostile actors. And these are bad, but very, very smart people. A hell of a lot smarter than what we have in Washington. That I can tell you.
Now, did you hear what he said? He's praising Russia as being smarter than America. those that Russia have are smarter than what we have. He said, and this I can tell you. Didn't I tell you he was sitting around? Now, this was while he was running. And your problem is you don't listen. You so filled with venom and hatred and bigotry that you will help a man burn your own house down, thinking that you spiting me. And when I say me, I'm talking about black people, everybody that ain't white. Now, he ain't through. He done already said that Russia is smarter than you. Now, just wait a minute. Now, this is who you elected president. Why you think he read the snake to you? He knew eventually. Putin probably told him. You know they're going to turn on you pretty soon. Say, well, I got something for him. Huh? Oh, shut up, silly woman. Yeah. You know that I was a snake when you took me in. Uh-huh. Just a moment.
Our enemies may have a blackmail file on Crooked Hillary, and this alone means that she should not be allowed to serve as president of the United States.
He just wrote his own epitaph, didn't he? Who does it seem like they got a blackmail file on? Got him over there with prostitutes and stuff. Done heard about him being over there with prostitutes, having them urinating in a bed. Huh? Why would he say things like that? He was just projecting. You say, where did he get all this stuff from? He's the one guilty of all that stuff. So he projected it on Hillary Clinton. He says she was too loose with classified information. Who been loose with classified information? Here, this man talking with his generals and stuff, and next thing you know, he tweeting to Putin, well, get ready, the missiles is coming. Well, if you planning on going after targets or whatnot, why would you tell them that you getting ready to do that? You better tell him. Don't he gonna see himself on the news? Huh? That's if they got something to blackmail him with. Is that right? Okay. Now, I mean, here this man was talking about the FBI even before he became president. Ain't nobody ever did that. No candidate ever did that.
We now know, just wrote this out, we now know that she lied to the country when she said she did not send classified information on her server. She lied. She sent vast amounts of classified information, including information classified as top secret. Top secret. Okay? And this is where they said that she was extremely careless and, frankly, I say grossly incompetent. She will be such a lousy president, folks. So sad. Okay.
Did you hear the way he, now this is the man you chose to represent America. Lousy? Oh, she'll make a lousy president. What kind of people he been hanging out with? President of the last superpower. The greatest nation on earth. And he gets up talking like he's over 12th grade glee club or something. Like he running for president of the student union. And even then, you know, if you go back and listen to some of these young people, even when I was in high school, you know, if you was running for to be the president of the student body, you couldn't get up using words like lousy and whatnot. You had to talk like you had some sense, man. You couldn't even speak in our common way of talking to each other, you know, with slangs and whatnot, because that would eliminate you from the thing. Because even as in junior high and high school, we understood the importance of political correctness. Because if you're going to represent us, then you know it's just like, let me tell you something. When you get ready to go to a formal dinner, I mean, they may say it's a black tie affair. Everybody know then that's you put tux and tails, at least tuxedos and dinner jackets and whatnot. You put on your best, right? Well, then why would you put on some coveralls and walk into a black tie affair? Talking about, I don't have to be, I ain't into all that. Well, then why did you come? If that's not your way of doing, why go? If he cannot measure up to the etiquette of president, why run? I'm talking about now they want to try to blame Director Comey for Miss Clinton's loss. No, blame your stupidity. Because Donald Trump wasn't hid. He's right out there in the open acting a fool. And you chose a draft dodger, a man who was a racist, a draft dodger, and a man who have no respect for America. You chose him over a former first lady, a senator, and Secretary of State. That shouldn't even been no contest. And look at you. It's none of you. I was sitting up there listening to that Minister Farrakhan sitting up calling Miss Clinton that wicked woman. Well, what is Donald Trump? And what are you? You the one, you turned on the messenger? About Gaddafi was your friend. Gaddafi tried to get you to get us to commit suicide. You sit up there and told the people to follow W.D. Muhammad, then you turned on W.D. because whatever. But now we're supposed to trust you? You don't even trust you. Don't organize black people to march. Organize black people to build. Next thing you know, you out there talking about some 1 million man march. And probably sitting there mad at me because I'm recalling that. And you know what? I don't hate you. I just hate what you've been doing, bro. See, once it's just like with me, if I fuss at you, it ain't because it's you. It's because of what you did. When you correct yourself, you discover that it wasn't because it was you. Because I said, okay, bro, that's good, man. You know, I'm sure glad you woke up. Then me and you are all right, as far as I'm concerned. You may be still mad because I corrected you. And if you are, that means you didn't mean it when you repented. But, now he talking, I'm gonna let you see why Director Kumi, or former Director Kumi, is now speaking out, and why he came out like he did, because this man was attacking the FBI and undermining the people's trust in the FBI. Suggesting that the FBI hadn't looked at Hillary Clinton and hadn't did nothing. So he came out and told them, yes, we investigated her. He didn't know what else to do. Because no one had ever did that. And you know what that was really about? If they find, and I'm pretty sure they have found, that they were in a conspiracy with Russia to make him president, he was undermining the trust in the FBI because he knew what he was guilty of. And his handlers was telling him, this is what we need to do. We need to go after the FBI so that when they do find this, and they gonna find it, you know, ain't nobody gonna believe them. At least the dummies who we manipulated ain't gonna believe them. And what are you seeing now?
The lives of the American people were put at risk by Hillary Clinton so that she could carry on her corrupt financial dealings. That's probably why she didn't want people to see what the hell she was doing.
Now, who did you find out had some corrupt dealings? Laundering money and all this kind of stuff. Who has it came out about? The very one who's standing up there talking about Miss Clinton. Let's go on.
She went to extraordinary lengths to carry out an Enron-style purge of her emails. 33,000 emails a minute.
Now, what does he know about her emails and about purged emails? He later on he admitted that there are no emails that actually go away, that you get them all, you can get them all. But remember when he was bragging about how he loved WikiLeaks? Huh? Don't you know that with all of those things that they had stolen from Miss Clinton's server, if there was any really compromising stuff in there that she had did as far as the United States go, that would have been the first thing they put out there. You see, the thing is, a family like her and her husband that had most of their lives been in the political arena, serving this country. Do you know what a slap in the face it is for you to be supporting a draft dodger and a man who haven't did nothing for this country, and you put him over the country, a man who hated the military so much he lied his way out of the draft and all that kind of stuff, bought his way out of it. And now you put him over the strongest military force in the modern world. A coward. Y'all are something, man.
And they say, oh, she's fine, she's fine. 33,000. And I've always been told you can't really get rid of an email. Have you ever heard this? That if we have the real super geniuses that know this stuff, they say you can't get rid of emails. But we didn't use them because they didn't want to use them. They didn't want to use them. So, like a criminal with a guilty conscience, Clinton had her lawyers.
You see where he suggested there? What is he suggesting? That the FBI wasn't doing their job. How do you suppose the director of the FBI felt when he was out there suggesting that the FBI was somehow crooked, supporting Miss Clinton's wrongdoing? It bothered him, man. Just wait.
Delete, destroy, and wipe away forever. Except I still say there are geniuses that can find them. 30,000, think of this, 30,000 emails. This again disqualifies her from service. And just think of it. I mean, how can you have this?
How many people he done had? Remember Jared Kushner? Man didn't have no security clearance, and he's reading top secret information. Even in there, according to the news, the man was leveraging his power with the president to get money, to borrow money for his company. Huh? It is these people, most of the people in his administration couldn't get a security clearance. We ain't gonna even talk about him. Because if they be honest, I know he couldn't get a security clearance if he wasn't the president. He wouldn't be able to come in the White House. Except as somebody who can come in there as they guessed. But man, this is something.
We know now that these deletions included emails that were work-related. One more big, fat, beautiful lie by Crooked Hillary. Any government employee who engaged in this kind of behavior would be barred from handling classified information.
And any president that engaged in the kind of speaking and insults that he engaged in never would have even been thought of to be president of the United States. Because he's too savage. He's a savage. You running around nicknaming people? I mean, parents used to get on their children. So-and-so called me stupid so-and-so. Don't be nicknaming him. Don't be nicknaming nobody. Remember that? You know what nicknaming is? Look up the word Old Nick, and you'll see it mean devil. devil naming people, saying something to people to put forth a false view of that person. Look at all of the people who leaving, the stars who leaving Scientology. Huh? What Minister Farrakhan doing over there in the first place? That's what happens when you don't accept the truth. You fall for a lie. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't teach us nothing that would guide us into Scientology. Nothing. But a man who was foolish enough to think that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was jealous of him, his own mind backed up on him. And that's what led him. You know, that's all delusion can lead you to, is falsehood. More of the same.
Again, that alone disqualifies her. And again, Bernie Sanders talked about bad judgment, but he's not happy tonight, folks, because now it looks like it's over for Bernie. But you know what? I have a feeling they're going to have a lot of people marching on Philadelphia. Let's see what happens, okay? Let's see.
Speaking of Philadelphia, that farce of a trial that they have there for Dr. Cosby. You know, the racism and bigotry there is just insane. Let me show you something. You know, people, you know, the truth is separating people now. There are some people in this country that, and lots of them. I remember the messenger said that there are white Muslims in America. In other words, there are white people who believe in God and who believe in submitting to God. And he said, and there are lots of them. I'm going to show you some of them now. You remember, man? No, that's not it.
Welcome back. Rule. This morning, there is growing outrage over this controversial arrest of two African-American men in a Starbucks in Philadelphia.
Police are calling for justice, and investigations are now underway, all following the incident last Thursday, which was caught on cell phone video. It's gone viral with about 10 million views. It shows police officers escorting the two men out of the Starbucks in handcuffs. They were seated at a table waiting to meet a friend. They asked to use the bathroom. The Starbucks manager said they had to leave because they didn't buy anything. When they refused, she called the cops. Officers say the men were trespassing. The men were released after 8 hours with no charges filed. Their attorney says the case was never about the law, but it was about bias. And this morning, Starbucks CEO is apologizing.
The circumstances surrounding the incident and the outcome in our store on Thursday were reprehensible. They were wrong. And for that, I personally apologize to the two gentlemen that visited our store. Now, certainly, it's my responsibility to understand what happened and what led to that. It was completely inappropriate to engage the police. And so clearly there's an opportunity for us to provide clarity. And in addition to that, I'd say there's training, more training that we're going to do with our store managers, not only around the guidelines, but training around unconscious bias.
You want to know where that came from? It came from you electing a racist, bigoted man and putting him in the office of President of the United States. That's where it came from. A man who spent at least 6 years insulting a sitting president simply because the man was black. You know, people who, you ain't gonna be able to repent after a while. It's fast coming to the point where he that is unjust, let him be that way still. That's what's about to come down. But now, listen to this. Like I said, it's some decent people in this country. You can't just assume that everybody white is wrong, is low down, and you can't assume that everybody black is a good person. That's foolish. You better open your eyes and look at what people are doing.
Joining us now, Melissa DiPino. She was at Starbucks and witnessed the whole thing. Melissa, what happened?
Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Allie. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I was sitting in Starbucks and two police officers came in and started talking to two men who had been sitting there quietly, like everyone else in the store. And more police showed up, and then more police showed up, and then the friend who the two gentlemen were meeting showed up and wondered what was happening, why they were being, talked to by police, why they were being asked to leave. And a bunch of other patrons in the store were asking the same question of the Starbucks employees and of the police officers. And the men were sitting there peacefully, quietly, and they were put in handcuffs, and they were walked out of the store, humiliated, embarrassed, and put in a patrol car.
Was there any sort of kerfuffle when the two men who didn't order anything went to use the restroom, and the Starbucks employee said, unless you're buying something here, you can't? Did something happen then that sparked the employee to make that call?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, the everything in Starbucks was as it normally is in Starbucks generally, just people working on their computers, people quietly talking. The gentlemen were waiting for their friend to come in to order something, and they sat down and they weren't bothering anyone.
And in the course of the conversation, I don't know how long the police and the two men were there with the friend who came in. At some point, did somebody not say, all right, maybe we don't have to have the police take these guys away?
Oh, well, everybody was sort of saying that in the store, but the police, said we were called, we were told the men were trespassing, a bunch of us were standing outside as they were taking the men away, and we were talking to the police and saying, why are you doing this? And they said, well, we're doing our job. We were told they were trespassing. We're taking them, down to the station. And, but that's basically what happened.
It's so odd because if it were a different...
How do you trespass in a public business? They say open for business. I done went to restaurants before and people come and ask you, would you like to order something? I said, no, I'm not ready yet. I'll call you when I'm ready. Don't nobody come back over there and tell me, you need to get up and get out of here. But you just can't hide what's in your heart no more. So let's listen to the rest of it.
Establishment. Right. Maybe you'd say, yes, you can't go in, you can't loiter, but Starbucks.
It's like a French cafe. That's all I associated with.
That's what they do. They go there, they get the free Wi-Fi.
The number of meetings that I have at Starbucks
for hours.
I mean, I have meetings at Starbucks. It's all the time. Most of the time I get something. Have I ever had a meeting at Starbucks where I haven't ordered something? Yes, absolutely. Please don't arrest me.
Okay, when these two gentlemen were arrested and left with the police officers, and you were left behind in Starbucks, then what happened? Did the manager make an announcement?
Oh, the manager kind of disappeared. We were all, a bunch of people were trying to go back in and see if she was there, but she disappeared somewhere. But there were a bunch of us. I mean, you talk about being in a Starbucks and not ordering anything. I had been in there the day before, sitting for an hour. I hadn't ordered anything, but of course nobody said anything to me about sitting there. It happens. These things happen all the time. All different places every day.
Sure.
It just happened to be Starbucks that day.
That's remarkable. Do you? The police commissioner has actually said.
Like I said, I got fed up with all of you people running around here hating us because of our black skin. I'm sick and tired of you. And soon I'm going to do something about it. With just a word from my mouth. Then you will understand why the book said, let the Lord be your fear and let him be your dread. Just keep on. Just keep on. You're gonna regret the least evil thought you had about us pretty soon. We ain't did nothing to you. You did it all to us. Anyway, a lot of you all, you hear me say things, and you'll agree when it's somebody that you don't like. Then when it's come down to somebody that you like, then you get mad. Haven't you heard that God have no respect of the persons of men? If you don't want to be chastised or corrected about your wrong, then you shouldn't do wrong. Then there's nothing to correct you for. What correction you got for me? Let me hear your correction you got for me. What wrong have I done? Let's see here. Tell you what. I'm going to let you see something else in there. But I think before I go back to that, I'm going to
In a rare interview, Mueller explains. It's important that the American public trust the FBI. I get the sense that that means a great deal to you.
The most important thing for the Bureau is its integrity.
Well, that summed it up. That's why Director Comey came out there and let the American people, yes, we are investigating Miss Clinton. He went before Congress and did something that they purposely tried to undermine American people's trust in the FBI, which had never happened before. Now, you know when something is a first-time thing. You remember when they, in football, they had a I think it was a formation called the flying wedge or something like that. And they was able to score quite a bit with it because it was a new offense that, at least as I recall, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you sports fan, but that wedge, it took the defensive coaches and the defensive planners a good little while to figure out how to block that wedge, didn't they? Okay. When you see something for the first time, it is kind of shocking. It was shocking to the FBI and the FBI director for a political candidate to start as good as accusing the FBI of being of having no integrity, of being a political run bureaucracy, which is a lie. Anybody who knows that and the sad part is most of those who are in the FBI are Republicans. This stuff that they call Republicans now ain't no Republican. They are alt-right, alt-Republican people, alternative to Republicans. Do you understand? But so Director Comey was doing damage control to this weak-minded people who was going for that stuff Donald Trump was out there saying. So he said, yes, we're investigating Miss Clinton. These people have spent all these years protecting the integrity of and the trust that the American people have in the FBI. And here this nut come along in one campaign and began undermining the people's trust. And that wasn't just, it culminated with Donald Trump. But if you recall, the Rifle Association, which you now have found out, have Russians involved in that. They had been the ones running around here talking about the administration trying to undermine, the administration trying to undermine. And they did it with the Obama administration because they stoked the fires of racism and then just eased it on over into the main arena of politics and said the government trying to undermine the Second Amendment. And then they formed a Tea Party. Huh? You know what the Tea Party did? And Boston Tea Party settlers dressed up like Indians and began throwing the tea overboard and everything, and so the Indians would get the blame. Is that right? These people dressed up like Republicans and began tearing up Washington, and the Republicans getting the blame. Do you understand? That's why you heard some of those Republicans who had been Republicans all their life saying they don't recognize their own party no more. Because it's not your party. It has been taken over. It's been hijacked by racists and bigots and people who could care less about the republic. The Democratic Republic of the United States. And you sitting there because they look like you, letting them get away with it. Maybe you ain't quite as liberal in your thinking as you thought you were. Because you sure wouldn't have let no black people get away with what these white folks in Congress getting away with. If you ain't careful, you're going to wake up and you ain't going to have no country.
In revamping the Bureau's mission after 9/11, Mueller discovered.
Well, brother, y'all need to hurry up and get on your job, man.
That his agency is woefully ill-equipped technologically to deal with the threat of terrorism.
The FBI wasn't just behind the rest of the government in technology, it was behind the country in technology.
When I first came into the FBI, there was no email. There was a machine called a Vidget machine, where you actually would take a photograph and you would watch it like an amazed little kid. One line at a time, it would actually go through and you'd see the Boston office picking that photo up. It would take about 4 hours.
The computers were not connected to the internet. Most communications were done by fax. When 9/11 occurred, there were dozens of fax machines lined up in the command center, and all these faxes were coming in. Nobody could keep track of them. It was just a nightmare, and he couldn't believe it.
As he had done in California, building the cyber crime unit, Mueller makes modernizing the Bureau a top priority.
And he really brought it into the 21st century and into a period of time where the national security landscape had completely changed.
Now, those in the news media knew all of these things. They've been knowing this. Then why are they letting Donald Trump get away with slandering them? You got traitors among you. Just like there was traitors in the Nation of Islam.
And Mueller's buttoned-up management style contrasts sharply with that of his predecessor, Louis Freeh.
The Director Free was an agent's agent, very laid-back, charismatic style of leadership.
Whereas Mueller didn't try to suck up to the agents at all. Mueller was the boss. He wanted the straight answers.
I think a misconception about Mueller is that he was very, very hard on people and they walked away hurt because he was so probative. But he knew when someone wasn't being 100% accurate. And that left a lot of people frustrated, but it also made everybody around the table. When you came in to brief Bob Mueller, you better be prepared.
So you would not get by with mere vagueness or we're all over it, Bob, or we've got it handled, Mr. Director. If you didn't have a command of those facts, you would make it.
You know how he knew that? Because he was once in their shoes. You know, don't tell me you all over it. What are you doing? You go tell that to each other, but don't come in here and give me that kind of report. I want to know, what are you doing? That is the way a man that takes his job seriously, if he's over something, how he gonna be over it and he asks you what's going on and you just, oh, we on top of it. We on top of it. So what happens when something go wrong and all he can do is say, well, you told me you was on top of it. Well, I thought I was. Nuh-uh. You know, when you have the right man at the head, then you don't have to worry about the people up underneath him, because if those underneath him ain't doing their job, he gonna find somebody, maybe not get rid of them, but he gonna find somebody who can do that job and make them the helper of somebody who can do the job. But you can't have a bunch of people under you to help you do something who don't know how to help. The man doing that's why I took the time and read them indictments that he put out against them Russians. As I said, we owe it to them. If they did the research, did the investigation, found what they found, and made a report before you go listening to people lie on them, why don't you read the report that they gave?
To an aide or assistant that he simply didn't need to be briefed by you again. And indeed, you would not see the that he simply didn't need to be briefed.
National security landscape had completely changed. And Mueller's buttoned-up management style contrasts sharply with that of his predecessor, Louis Freeh.
Director Freeh was an agent's agent, very laid-back, charismatic style of leadership.
Whereas Mueller didn't try to suck up to the agents at all. Mueller was the boss. He wanted the straight answers.
I think a misconception of Bob Mueller is that he was very, very hard on people and they walked away hurt because he was so probative. But he knew when someone wasn't being 100% accurate. And that left a lot of people frustrated, but it also made everybody around the table. When you came in to brief Bob Mueller, you better be prepared.
So you would not get by with mere vagueness or we're all over it, Bob, or we've got it handled, Mr. Director. If you didn't have a command of those facts, you would make it known to an aide or assistant that he simply didn't need to be briefed by you again. And indeed, you would not see the inside of the director's conference room again.
Mueller, a husband and father of two, famously puts in long hours at the office.
He led by example. If he got to the office at 5:30 in the morning, you wanted to get to the office at 5:30 in the morning. If he stayed till late at night, you wanted to stay until late at night.
He has an ability to not just rule with an iron fist, because that's not particularly effective leadership. He has the ability to just raise everybody's game and make them do better.
I can't remember a written product, no matter how carefully we edit it, where we didn't find a change. And that makes you raise up your game.
I think the word enjoy would not be the first one that comes to mind for people who work for Bob Mueller. Respect, admire, yes. But he could be very tough and very demanding. And Mueller, in fact, admits this about himself, that he could be quite impatient.
But I think what most people don't realize is him, because he has this tough exterior, is that he really had a spot in his heart for FBI employees.
Day in and day out, agents put their lives on the line. But if you lose an agent, you can lose it to cancer, you can lose it to in a line of duty. We respond as a family. We have lost a piece.
You remember I told you that if you don't care about the people that you have authority over, you have no business having authority over them. I told you that before this came out here. But, you know, it's just, it makes no sense. Why would you want to be in authority over those who you have no respect for? I tell you why. Because you don't believe in God and you don't believe in what God said. As you would that men do to you, do ye also unto them. How would you like to have somebody over you that could give less than a tinker's damn about you? Then since you don't give a damn about me, why do you want to be over me? because you're a devil. That's why. Well, you ain't going to be over nobody in a minute.
Our body, so to speak.
And I think what most people don't know is that even the agents that died in the line of duty, Bob Mueller had pictures of them in his office. You didn't frequently get to go into Bob Mueller's office, but over to the side of his was every single agent that died during his tenure, in the FBI. And he looked at those pictures every single day. I think that's lost on a lot of individuals. They see Bob Mueller as this tough guy, right? But he really felt every single one of those, fallen agents in the FBI.
Coming up.
Bob Mueller can certainly be the person who would bring down this presidency.
He will take a hold of you like a dog with a bone, and he will not give up. And if you did it, and he's got decent evidence, you're going to get convicted.
And if you didn't do anything, he's not going to trump up no evidence that try to suggest that you did. That's the wonderful thing about men of integrity. They're not going to lie for you, and they ain't going to lie on you. They will let your history speak for you. And then may the works I've done speak for me. Huh? Now I'm going to let somebody's work speak for them. Just a moment. Oh, and I say to Mr. Mueller and Mr. Rosenstein, Mr. McCabe, even though he's not there no more, we ain't forgot you, Mr. McCabe. And this country ain't going to forget you. You and your family going to be fine. And Mr. Ray, we salute all of you who are taking the time to make sure that this country and its citizens stay safe. They had a saying that I want you to hear before I go to the next subject matter. There's in so many words, America is at peace because the FBI is at war. You see? In other words, they watching and on their watch, whatever attacks America, you can rest assured they don't really need nobody to tell them to look out for their country. Don't nobody have to tell a patriot to stay woke on the watch. Even if you try to put him to sleep, he'll recognize you for what you are. That's why the Constitution, it took everything in mind. You know that oath of office takes everything in mind. Most people, children, think like this. Well, do you swear to uphold our Constitution and protect us from all of our enemies? That ain't good enough. Everybody know about the outside enemy, the foreign enemy, the snake that's out of the grass. But what about the snake in the grass? Domestic ones. They get them too. Huh? From all enemies, foreign and domestic. You better be careful who you jump in bed with. All right. Now, I'm going to let you hear that last little part there.
A decade after the 9/11 attacks, the FBI hardly resembles the institution that Robert Mueller had taken over. After 10 years on the job, now serving under his second president, Mueller's term as director is about to expire.
You cannot stay longer than 10 years. It's not something at the discretion of the president. It is a 10-year term, and that's it.
The FBI director's term limit was put in place in the 1970s after the death of original director J. Edgar Hoover, who led the department for nearly 50 years.
Congress's interest was to make sure there are no more J. Edgar Hoovers. No more people who could acquire so much power because they had been in the FBI so long that they were basically uncontrollable and feared.
Finding a replacement proved to be difficult.
We were having trouble finding anybody who came up to his standards. We really were. And so we started thinking about, well, what do we do?
He came into the morning meeting with his 10 most senior executives in the organization and said very kind of casually that the President of the United States has asked me to stay for 2 more years, and I've accepted.
None of the previous directors had finished their 10-year terms, let alone exceeded them. Extending Mueller requires Congress to pass a new law, which clears the Senate unanimously.
The decision to extend Bob Mueller's term, it's the only time it had ever happened. It was a remarkable testament to him that Congress approved this.
Mueller's 2-year extension ends in the summer of 2013. He hands a completely overhauled FBI to a new director, James Comey, a man who would 4 years later play a major role in the initial phase of the Russia investigation.
The FBI was now a full-fledged member of the U.S. intelligence community and not just the premier law enforcement agency in the United States. He earned the respect of the American people with the concept that America is at peace because the FBI is at war.
After leaving
You see, that's why your body is at peace, because your immune system is at war. Who you think keeps you immune from, keeps you from being poisoned and whatnot by internally from enemies within, crooked politicians and all that kind of thing? The FBI. Then why would people who running for office try to undermine the FBI? Come on. Why? They crooks. If you don't mean this country no harm, then you ain't got nothing to fear about from the FBI. Well, ain't that right? Well, then why are these people so obsessed? Hey, you got all these crooks in Congress that's done signed the pledge. We're going to investigate the FBI. Well, what are they upset with the FBI for? Because they know that as the FBI investigates one crook, all of them are interconnected. It's a chain of them. One leads to another. Look what this thing with them crooked Russians that was over here spying and going on. Next thing you know, you had Mr. Flynn, then I should say Mr. Papadopoulos, which led to Mr. Flynn, which led to Manafort, which led to, it's just one after another. So how do you, when you can't deal with the evidence that's being brought up, go after the one who bringing it up? As they say, when you can't attack the message, attack the messenger. Okay. Now I'm gonna leave that alone for right now. I want to go to something else here now. You know who that is singing? That's Minister Farrakhan. I know his voice, and that's him praying in Arabic. He's chanting in Arabic. You know, the way they pray over in the East, they chant, you know. Now, listen. The Christian has something similar to that. They do it. I've heard the Lord's Prayer sung like that. It says, "Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy holy name." And so, you know, but but that's not actually the way you pray. You know, you pray like you would speak to your Father. You know, you didn't go to your earthly father. Daddy, can I have a nickel? No. You said, Daddy, can I have a nickel? Do you understand? When you're trying to learn the prayer, well, you know, if you sing it, it's just like singing the alphabet. That's how most of us learn the alphabet. We learned it by putting the letters to a tune. And so the tune helped us relate to the letters. So, you know, chanting prayers and singing prayer, that's a good way to learn the prayer. But when it's time to pray, it's time to get serious and speak, not sing. So.
But this prayer is due forever.
Now, by the way, this is Minister Farrakhan back in 1979 when we was all younger. So.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, the great God who was to come and has come, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. I thank Allah for His prophets and messengers and the scriptures that they brought. Thank Allah for Moses and for Jesus and for Muhammad ibn Abdullah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of His worthy prophets and servants. But if I live to be 1,000, I shall always be grateful to Almighty God Allah for blessing the black man and woman of America with a divine leader, a divine teacher, and a divine guide in the personage of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. In their names, I'm very happy to greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. To those of the Hebrew Israelite nation headquartered in Jerusalem under the distinguished leadership of Rabbi Ben Ami,
and Yeshua Shalom Aleichem. To all of my Christian brothers and sisters, Jesus' words, always upon meeting and leaving the disciples, was always peace be with you. We say the same, peace be with you all. It is a great honor, brothers and sisters, for us to come to a house so full and rich in the symbolism of Islam, the true religion of Allah. And we are honored to be in this house, Medina or Medina Temple. I'm standing on a rostrum that covers a square and a compass. That square and that compass are the tools of builders of civilization. But this square and this compass that I stand on is not the physical square nor the physical compass. But we don't need that. This house the Shriners worship here. And I ask myself, what is a Shriner and what is a shrine? The great significance of paying tribute to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in this house, I don't believe words can adequately describe, but I shall attempt to. First, a shrine is a tomb of a saint, or it is a place where devotion is paid to a saint or a deity. Who is the deity that is enshrined in the shrine that a shriner keeps? All praises due to Allah. No black man can ever be a shriner. Even though you have 32 or 33 degrees, you are not yet properly called when you call yourself a shrine. For this house is dedicated to the remembrance of you when you were in your glory. It is foolish for you to try to be what others are worshiping you as when you once were in the nature and spirit of yourself. This house is built to honor the Lord of the world. But a shrine is a tomb. Who is dead here?
See, that's what got him in trouble and made him start thinking he was, that the messenger was jealous of him. He actually thought he was understanding the mysteries of the Word of God and of the shrine and all of that kind of stuff. What he was doing was he was misunderstanding what was really what the yes, a shrine is as he said, a place where you remember someone who is dead. But as the messenger said, The white race knows God, but they can't represent God as you and me. Do they be given away the power to rule? They was not made to rule under the reality of God. They was made to hide the reality of God. And so that's part of what Farrakhan and all of the ministers and all of the people was doing. Whenever they try to teach you the understanding of the Word of God, they are actually helping the white man cover up the truth. They don't know that, but you know, that's what they were doing. That's why you got all these people misunderstanding Islam now. That's why you got so many people misunderstanding the Word of God, because they have been taught to misunderstand. And by people who were either knowingly deceiving them, or people who were deceived themselves and then began deceiving others unknowingly. And that's how you kill the Son of Man. The Son of Man is the truth. And when you give misunderstanding of the truth or the Word of God, then you kill that truth. And that's what you have done. And the shrine is where you go, and you notice those who study in the Shriners, they are always elder men, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me. He said, you don't see no young Shriner. They are older men. They had to study from 35 to 50 years in order to be able to wear that crescent and star. And they learn who God is. But God has been dead, as they had a saying back in the 60s, God is dead. Well, the scripture says, I am he that liveth and was dead, saith the Lord. So the shrine, it remembers, you know, they remember the truth that one day the Lord himself would be resurrected. The Lord will come. And the sign of the Lord's coming would be Elijah. Elijah would come and restore that which was broken into three parts. Elijah would come and restore all of those things that was meant to be one. He came and restored them to oneness, and then presented them to the Lord himself, as he was told. He said, if don't one of them believe in you, Elijah, you come and bring me the keys. And that's what he did. And now I was dead, but I'm not dead now. Dead meaning without understanding. But I'm alive now. I have understanding now. And I'm going to cut to the chase with this. Most of you probably, you can go on. It's on the internet, so it's not like you can't find it. And Minister Farrakhan told people, if you've been part of the problem, you can't be the solution. So now, listen to this. I want you to see this. And I want you to hear this.
Talk to the world about the rebuilding of the nation of Islam. I know that many of you thought the nation was dead and you would never see it again. And I know that Washington, D.C., the government of America, and my Arab brothers rejoice because they thought that the theology of Elijah Muhammad was laid to rest. But you will be laid to rest before Elijah Muhammad. You should have listened to the man. You should have reasoned with the man. You didn't like his theology. Orthodox Muslim brothers that he's not teaching Islam correctly, according to the teachings of the Holy Quran. Who said that you understood the book? You are vain and arrogant to think that any of you scholars of Islam understand the book that was revealed to Prophet Muhammad nearly 1,400 years ago. He himself said, 3 generations from me, after that you will no longer be of me. So how in the world can we put our salvation in the hands of those who have deviated from Prophet Muhammad and have become idolaters in the name of the Prophet of Islam?
Out of his own mouth. How can I put my salvation in the hands of someone who deviated from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? See? And then tries to justify his deviation. No, listen to his words.
No, we can't follow you. No, not going to follow you. You're unfit to be a guide for the black man of the West. No, you are a part of the problem. Therefore, you cannot be the solution.
You heard that? Didn't he tell everybody to follow Wallace? Huh? Well, he part of the problem. If Wallace Dean Muhammad was able to trick him, how can he guide me? No, don't. We're not going to forget. I'm not going to let you forget. You always try to pretend that you you got everything figured out. You can go tell that to somebody else. I know better. I mean, here's a good example right here.
Called me. And he said, when are you coming this way? I said, gee, I'll be there in September. I'm coming out that way. He said, well, I'll come and meet you. And right after Labor Day, I went to Los Angeles. And Jabril didn't have any money, borrowed some money to get there. I think he had a dime in his pocket and had on some shoes that was too big for his feet. But he got there, and he had a book in a paper bag. And we met in Hollywood at the hotel where I was staying. And he asked me about Master Farad Muhammad. I said, well, I love him very much, but I don't believe he's God. And he asked me about the messenger, and I said, I love him very, very much, but I don't see him now as the messenger. I see Prophet Muhammad as the messenger.
Now, out of his own mouth. Let's go back there again. Look at this.
You should have listened to the man. You should have reasoned with the man. You didn't like his theology. My Orthodox Muslim brothers said he's not teaching Islam correctly, according to the teachings of the Holy Quran. Who said that you understood the book? Prophet Muhammad nearly 1,400 years ago. He himself said, 3 generations from me, after that you will no longer be of me. So how in the world can we put our salvation in the hands of those who have deviated from Prophet Muhammad and have become idolaters in the name of the Prophet of Islam. No.
You notice, he said, how can we put ourselves in the hands of those who deviated from Prophet Muhammad? You notice he ain't saying, how can I put myself in the hands of somebody who deviated from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? I mean, a deviator is a deviator, isn't that right? So if we can't trust one who deviated, he's saying that the mere fact that they deviated from Prophet Muhammad. The messenger said, I mean, let's quote the messenger. The Prophet Muhammad, he quoted Prophet Muhammad as saying, 3 generations after me will no longer be of me. Well, let's quote the Honorable Elijah Muhammad too. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, yes, he's very well known, all right, so that when he turns hypocrite on me, the whole world will see him. What did you hear Dr. Henry Clark say about him? That faker? Huh? So look, you can get angry with me, but you can't say I'm lying. That's because you're a flesh worshiper. You don't care about the truth. You care about who's telling it. You know, and as far as you're concerned, the hell with the truth. You just like the man who's telling it. It don't work like that for me. Never did. I ain't never been no flesh worshiper. I ain't never been nobody's groupie. If I think you wrong, I don't go along with you. I'll tell you. No, man, I can't go for that one now. You need to show me what how you come up with that. I'm not going to say I understand if I don't. I said, no, I don't understand that. You're going to have to explain that one to me. Oh, man, this is me. I know this is you. But what that got to do with the fact that you're doing something that don't make no sense? And now you about to insult me because you're going to make me feel like you was trying to confidence me so that I would go along with your wrongdoing. And you've been around me all this time. You ought to know me better than that. Yeah, I love Minister Farrakhan, but I love Allah more. And I love Minister Farrakhan far more than he loved me. So, you know, I mean, how in the world you gonna love me and don't love the word of God? You don't even know how to love me if you don't love God's word. Loving me don't mean going along with me in wrong. Loving me means correcting me if you see me wrong. Because that's the only way we're going to be saved, is that we got to be spotless. That's what the end of us is we be presented in white robes, clean, spotless. What are these that are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? Sir, thou knowest. These are they that came through great tribulation, through affliction and great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Now you done told them you can't guide me. If you part of the problem, you can't be the solution. Let's listen to them again.
Can't follow you. No, not going to follow you. You're unfit to be a guide for the black man of the West. No, you are a part of the problem. Therefore, you cannot be the solution.
There it is. Huh? Let me refresh your memory. You know, you like to act a fool with me. I'm not gonna let you act a fool with me no more. No, sir. So I'm gonna get this right at the beginning of his speech in 75.
Went all the way over to the East Coast. Brother Stein, my beloved brothers and sisters, the next speaker I will bring before you, the national representative of the Nation of Islam, Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. Salam alaikum. In the name of Allah who came in the divine person of Master Farad Muhammad, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the world. And we thank Almighty God Allah, and we could never thank him enough for the greatest blessing ever bestowed upon a people. A messenger from himself, the last of the messengers, the greatest of the messengers, the wisest of the messengers, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. To our dear beloved,
You see, the problem is that, you know, all that was fluff. We don't make no distinction between any of the messengers of God. They were just the messengers of God, period. We don't say this one was wiser than that one, and this one was wiser, and this one is the greatest, and this one that. No. We make no distinction between any of them. If you believe in one, you believe in all. If you disbelieve in one, you disbelieve in all. Now, listen to him, how he talks about W.D. Muhammad.
and we thank Almighty God Allah, and we could never thank him enough for the greatest blessing ever bestowed upon a people. A messenger from himself, the last of the messengers, the greatest of the messengers, the wisest of the messengers, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. To our dear beloved leader of the Nation of Islam, Minister Wallace D. Muhammad, to the beloved family.
Why was he up there saying that? He called W.D. Muhammad the leader of the Nation of Islam, Minister W.D. Muhammad, Wallace D. Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam. Why is that important? Let's see. It's important because because of this.
That's just like a girl. Boy, that is talking to the Lord. There is nobody coming behind me but God. I better tell you that. God, I better tell you that. And nobody coming behind me but God. I better tell you that. And nobody coming behind me but God. I better tell you that. And nobody coming behind me but God. I better tell you that.
Well, then why is Minister Farrakhan calling Minister Wallace D. Muhammad the leader of the Nation of Islam? If the messenger is gone, and they was all saying he was gone, then why wasn't they saying, well, we are waiting on God now? Deviating. Well, that's it. I mean, if the messenger was gone and they were all telling us he was gone, then why is he introducing a minister as the leader of the Nation of Islam? The messenger said, there's nobody coming behind me but God. I better tell you that. That's deviation, isn't it? And he said, we can't follow them who deviated from Prophet Muhammad. Well, what about them who deviated from the messenger? You notice, I invite you to join with me. I don't tell you to come lead me nowhere. You can't lead me because you helped create the problem that I'm here to solve. You part of that problem. Just a moment. I ain't through. No, sir. Let's get back to that last part.
Elijah Muhammad, his true and faithful servant, set up this day for us. To all of the ministers and faithful followers, friends and sympathizers of the Nation of Islam, we have come to a great point in our history. For today is Savior's Day. Today is the day that Almighty God, Allah, Messenger Muhammad teaches us, was born. Master Farad Muhammad.
No. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't teach us that Allah was born. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Master Farad Muhammad was born. And he taught us that Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. But he didn't teach us that Allah was born. That's Farrakhan talking. You ain't never read nowhere where the messenger said Allah was born. He said a Savior was born. Huh? Do you understand? But listen.
Elijah Muhammad, his true and faithful servant, set up this day for us as a day of honor, a day of joy, a day of commemoration, a day of rededication of our lives to Almighty God, Allah, to his messenger and to the commemoration, a day of rededication of our lives to Almighty God, Allah, to his messenger and to the truth that Almighty God, Allah, revealed for our salvation. This is no different than any other Savior's Day. It is a day of joy. It is not a day of grief. It is not a day of sadness. It is not a day for Muslims and sympathizers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to have our heads hung low. For the messenger of Allah has taught us well. He taught us of life, and he taught us of death. And he taught us that those who believe and are the doers of good, there is no fear for them, nor shall they grieve. He taught us to submit to the will of Almighty God Allah, and that is what makes us a Muslim, and we enter into peace.
And he taught you that there ain't nobody coming behind him but God. And if he taught you to submit, then how come you don't submit to me? For I am certainly the possessor of knowledge and understanding that no one else has but me. I've said publicly that if you're not submitting to me, you are not a Muslim. Why don't none of them argue with me publicly about that? You know why they don't? It's because people that play poker, if they're really good at it, they know when somebody ain't bluffing. They get your tail, you know. Now, if I was bluffing, then why am I the only one offering $20,000 in my life if you can prove that I'm teaching a lie? Ain't nobody else offering that. Ain't nobody else offering you nothing if you can prove they lying. You know why? Because they scared I might hear it. So I'm going to let you go over that for a while. And like I said, you know, I was thinking about Director Comey also. And Director Comey, as I said, you know, they want to try to make it look like he did something wrong. No, the one that did something wrong was the one who came out and attacked the FBI, and the director of the FBI had to try to do something to make sure that the American people didn't believe the lies that was being told on them. Let's see.
Silver lining, let it be an opportunity to do better. Certainly these men deserve a sincere apology or action.
Give me a minute.
Change the nature of the FBI. Those folks.
Change the nature of the FBI, those folks will pursue the truth. If that were to happen, it should be a wake-up call, a blaring alarm for everybody, regardless of your political affiliation, that is something the American...
Action out of this, we've got to get... FBI Director James Comey tells his side of the story. calling Donald Trump unfit to occupy the Oval Office.
And he was 105% correct. You know, when you place a valve or anything on your car, or you put a lock on your door that has got one of them little on your front door that's got one of them little pass key things with the little flat end on it that you can just stick in there and turn it. You know that lock ain't fit to be no front door lock. Isn't that right? Well, that's what you did when you put a man in the top political office in America. The president of the United States is a political office. And you put a man that knows nothing about politics into that office. He was unfit from the very word say go. And he told you he was not a politician. He told you that. And you stuck him in there anyway. And now he's manifesting all of the other crooks that's in there, that's upholding him, dragging this country's reputation through the mud. First thing he did was broke the word of the United States. So you didn't like TPP. It's a right way to get out of that. But you don't make an agreement and then get a change of presidents and go back on the agreement. Now you sound like a child. You don't sound like a mature nation. That's why I stood up and I told the world, look, y'all know as individuals get sick sometime, you know, nations get sick. Right now, America is sick. But I really believe with the help of Allah, America will recover. We will recover from this setback and learn from it. The whole world is watching how we deal with this sickness now. Shall we deal with it as barbarians or deal with it as a nation of laws and not of men? We'll see, huh? Let's see what Director Comey had to say.
A person who sees moral equivalence in Charlotte constantly about matters big and small and insists the American people believe it, that person's not fit to be president of the United States. In Charlottesville, who talks about and treats women like they're pieces of meat, who lies. In Charlottesville.
Optimist on the way out. Let this be a silver lining. Yep. Let it be an opportunity. Initial reports fighting back. Former FBI Director James Comey tells his side of the story, calling Donald Trump unfit to occupy the Oval Office.
A person who sees moral equivalence in Charlottesville, who talks about and treats women like they're pieces of meat, who lies constantly about matters big and small and insists the American people believe it, that person's not fit to be president of the United States on moral grounds.
Striking Syria. The U.S. is set to slap Russia with new sanctions for supporting the Assad regime, as the Trump White House vows to keep up the pressure after Friday night airstrikes targeting Syrian chemical weapon facilities. We, of course, know that our work in Syria is not done. We know that it is now up to Bashar al-Assad on whether he's going to use chemical weapons again. And should he use it again, the president has made it very clear that the United States is locked and loaded and ready to go.
And care and comfort. The matriarch of a political dynasty decides to end her medical treatment. Jenna Bush Hager spoke about her grandmother, Barbara Bush, this morning on Today.
She's the best grandma anybody could have ever had or have. And Barbara and I talked to her last night. She's in great spirits and she's a fighter. She's an enforcer.
Good day, I'm Casey Hunt in Washington. Let's get right to Texas and the very latest on former First Lady Barbara Bush's health with the host of this show, NBC's Andrea Mitchell in Houston. Andrea, what have we heard from the family and their closest?
But it's possible.
President Trump began his morning by telling the country his former FBI director should be behind bars, responding to James Comey's stunning primetime interview with this tweet. Quote, Comey drafted the crooked Hillary exoneration long before he talked to her, live in Congress to Senator G, then based his decisions on her poll numbers. Disgruntled, he, McCabe, and the others committed many crimes. Comey's wide-ranging discussion with George Stephanopoulos included his take on alleged Trump ties to Russia.
Do you think the Russians have something on Donald Trump?
I think it's possible. I don't know. These are more words I never thought I'd utter about a president of the United States, but it's possible. It always struck me and still strikes me as unlikely. And I would have been able to say with high confidence about any other president I dealt with, but I can't. It's possible.
Joining me now to talk about all of this, NBC White House correspondent Kristen Welker and MSNBC political analyst Phil Rucker, also the White House bureau chief at the Washington Post. Kristen Welker, I want to start with you. Can we start with a fact check here of this tweet that the president leveled at Comey about committing crimes? Is it true?
There's no indication of that, Casey. One of the things that the president points to, he says that Comey leaked classified information, and Comey was asked about that last night by George Stephanopoulos, and he said, look, it's just not true, that nothing that he has put out has been leaked. He says.
Now, all of that coming from a man who tweeted, the missiles is coming soon. Ain't that something? He talking about people leaking, and he's a sift. Now, just a moment. Now, everything that Director Comey said about him, most of us already knew it was true. Just about everybody, including everybody in the press, they know that. I mean, that's not no revelation that that man lied every time he opened his mouth. And it's not no revelation that he expects and tells all of the people in the country to believe him. While they know he lying and he know he's lying. Why you think he said your system is a joke? But anyway, let's go on.
Everything that he has dispensed to the press was done in a wholly appropriate way, and there's been no finding or no judgment to that end by members of Congress or anyone else who's been looking at this. So at this point in time, there's just no indication that Comey did break the law. But look, we are seeing, Casey, this war of words escalate. Over the weekend, as you and I talked about, President Trump unfurled a number of tweets, kind of pre-butting Comey in that interview that he delivered last night. That one tweet today, I asked a White House official if we could expect to hear more from President Trump about this today. He's heading to Florida as we speak. He's going to be holding a tax event. The official wasn't clear, making the case that, of course, that is up to the president. They would certainly like to shift the narrative away from Comey here at the White House, and it's been really a coordinated effort to do that, from the White House podium to the RNC, trying to undercut Comey and cast him as a disgruntled former employee who was fired. But still, what we heard from Comey last night was this sort of moral judgment on some of the president's alleged actions. Comey making it very clear he's not going to be silent. Casey.
Phil Rucker, what does your reporting tell you about how the White House is responding behind the scenes? We've heard a lot about how they're more concerned with what's going on with Michael Cohen, who's in court today, than they are necessarily about Comey. I mean, how legitimately stressed is the president about what's gone on with Comey, or is he sort of raring for a campaign-style fight here?
Well, he likes to fight. He likes to have an enemy, and today that enemy is Jim Comey, and probably will be for a while. Though there's some relief in the White House that there aren't more damning allegations in this book. There was a fear that Comey may have more news, frankly, in this book than he has. But I expect the assault on Comey will continue as long as Comey's on this national book tour. He has interviews lined up for the remainder of this week and into next week, and his sort of presence on the national spotlight is what's really bothering President Trump at the moment. Kellyanne Conway was on television this morning saying that the president is frustrated that he's getting all of this attention, that Comey's sucking up so much media attention. So, you know, we'll see if that continues. It probably will.
For the first time in a while, he has something of an equal opponent in the media presence, right, if you will. Kristen Welker, let's talk a little bit more about Michael Cohen, who is, of course, they have
powerful, and we'll have to wait and see what.
Give me a minute.
The American people and their representatives should care deeply about, because that is an attack on who we are.
Former FBI Director James Comey, in an exclusive new interview with USA Today, issuing a stark warning. President Trump tries to fire Special Counsel Robert Mueller or Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. It's the latest in a stunning and unprecedented public assault on a sitting president by a former top law enforcement official. Joining me now is Susan Page, USA Today Washington Bureau Chief, who got that exclusive interview with James Comey. Matt Miller, former Chief Spokesman for the Justice Department and MSNBC Justice and Security Analyst. And Chuck Rosenberg, former U.S. Attorney and former senior FBI official. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Susan, what stood out to you the most in interviewing James Comey?
The thing that I thought was most striking, most shocking really, was he said it was possible that the President of the United States has been compromised by the Russians, that they're holding something over his head, something about his personal behavior, his finances, what he called the Moscow hotel room incident, or something that has compromised the commander-in-chief. That's what I thought was most surprising, shocking, and stunning.
I'm glad you raised that, because we actually have that we can show our viewers. Let's take a look.
Do you think President Trump has been compromised by the Russians?
I don't know. And these are words I never thought would come out of my mouth about an American president, but it's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. I don't know, and the honest answer is it's possible. He won't criticize Vladimir Putin, even in private, even in a meeting with 3 people in the Oval Office, sitting with the person in charge of countering the Russia threat in the United States, privately not being willing to do that that always struck me.
Chuck Rosenberg, what are the potential implications of that in the course of the Mueller investigation? I mean, James Comey potentially a witness here, essentially alleging or raising the possibility that the president could be blackmailed. Is that a problem? You've done investigations before.
I have. It's not a problem. I mean, ideally, you don't want your witnesses talking or writing books or doing any of those things. But
now, it's not a problem because it's against the law or nothing. But I understand what he's saying. The average witness, a lot of times they don't, they say things that they later don't remember saying, and then when they tell it again, they, it's just not a good practice. That's a deposition, actually. That's a free deposition, an open deposition to the world. And if you say something on television or whatnot, like where Donald Trump said that he didn't know about that payment to Stormy Daniels that his lawyer made, and he said that on public television. Now he done already said that he didn't know about that, which get the man who, I mean, he put his lawyer in a really bad position there. But anyway, so if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to get out talking to the press, especially if you're a witness or you may be called as a witness. So he, he's explaining it, but I can relate to that. But watch what he says about the director. James Comey was the director of the FBI. He's not stupid. So just listen.
As prosecutors, we would tell witnesses not to do that all the time. But Jim Comey isn't your average witness. So while it's not ideal that any witness would be speaking so publicly and so often, I can assure you, Casey, that Bob Mueller and his team have talked to Jim many times. They know what he knows, and he's going to be completely consistent in what he says.
Matt Miller, can you weigh in on that? I mean, what's your view of? I mean, this seems it's an incredibly serious charge, as Susan points out.
Yeah, I think that's right. At some point, it's the most central question to this investigation. You saw this Washington Post story this morning about Trump's actions and his arguments with his aides every time it comes to sanctioning Russians or expelling Russian agents, and that the way the administration staff have to do it is almost trick the president into doing it. The central question has always been, why is he so hostile to doing this? I think that's what the investigation is trying to get to. I think Chuck makes a very good point. I go back to the fact that when Jim Comey testified to the Senate Intelligence Committee last June, a month after he was fired, in the build-up to that testimony, before he agreed, there was a lot of question about whether he would agree to appear in public for precisely this reason. Would he want to shed public light on a question that was very much under investigation, especially whether the president obstructed justice? And we know that he got clearance from the special counsel, Bob Mueller, before agreeing to that testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee. And for all that he said publicly in this hearing, or in this book tour, there aren't a lot of new facts so far about his interactions with the president and the president's potential being compromised by the Russian government.
And Susan Page, what was his posture like in the interview? It does seem, to Matt's point, that he had a very specific set of things that he wanted to say, and he was going to be very careful not to go beyond them.
He was incredibly disciplined about what he wanted to say. He had, I wouldn't say talking points, but he had in mind how he wanted to respond. He had the demeanor of a G-man, right? Except at one moment, and that was when we asked him about the death of his infant son 20 years ago, something he wrote about for the first time in his book, not something he'd talked about before. And I asked him, why did you put it in the book, something you've not, that is so very private? And he said that it has informed his view of the obligations of a leader and your obligations of what you need to do when something bad happens. And that was a lesson that he and his wife learned then. And that is a lesson he said he took now from once he got fired by the president as director of the FBI, job he loved.
Chuck, you're nodding. You know this man well.
I know him very well, but so a couple of things, Casey. I read the entire book cover to cover, and I'm glad Susan mentioned that very painful chapter in their lives, because while I knew about the passing of their son, Colin, there were facts that I didn't know. And that's why I would urge everyone to take a deep breath, take a step back, and read the book. It's not just about the color of the president's hair or skin. There's a whole bunch of interesting, well-told, thoughtful chapters in that book.
The reason he brought that up is because CNN had some commentary, and they made a big deal out of the fact that Mr. Comey talked about the color of the president's skin and the white bags under his eyes, how his skin looked orange, and he just was very observant. As any you notice when police, people who are in what you would call law enforcement, that that's one of the things that most people don't realize, is that when a police officer or a detective or an FBI agent, when they come in contact with you, especially if you are under some type of investigation, or when they just meet average people, they are in the habit of what you would call sizing them up, but that's just their habit. They look at you. If they have to describe you again, they can do that. Do you understand? They need to be able to do that. So, you know, I didn't even bother to record what CNN had to say, because they, you know, they kind of mad at him about Miss Clinton losing. But you know, if you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at yourself for helping people get in Congress that undermines your educational system. Because trust me, Director Comey, he didn't have nothing to do with my vote for Miss Clinton. I had already made up my mind about Miss Clinton, and I voted for her. Anybody who didn't vote for her, it didn't have nothing to do with what Mr. Comey did by coming out there divulging that. I tell you what it did. It gave an excuse to people that wanted to vote against her in the first place. That's all. It gave them an excuse, but they wasn't going to vote for her no way. So, you know, this is you know, just you done made a bed, and you ain't got nobody to blame but yourself for the bed you made, and that's why you sleeping in it. Your racism and your disrespect of your own Constitution and disrespect of your so-called principles. That's what got a man like Donald Trump elected, because you really don't stand for what you claim you stand for. Yeah. Anyway, it's late. I'm going to let you go unless somebody has something they wanted to ask me. So then, may Allah bless us all and keep us safe and in our right minds. May Allah's Salam Alaikum.